What's up, fellow heathens? Today we are going to be doing a review of Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Now, if you don't know me, I love Star Wars. I am such a huge Star Wars nerd, it's not even funny. I'm a collector, I am a reader of the expanded material, aware of many Star Wars branded t-shirts, I have a fucking closet full of the shit, lots of comic books. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I've loved this franchise ever since I was a kid, so it means a lot to me. I'm going to be pretty critical in this review, but I'm going to separate it in a couple different ways. First of all, the first part of this review is going to be spoiler-free. I'm just going to speak generally and try to be as general as I can so as not to spoil anything. The second half is going to be a lot of spoilers. So I'll let you know before we get into that what to expect, so don't worry, it's not going to come out of anywhere. We're going to start by answering the question, did you like this movie? Yes, I did like the movie. I think this movie, I liked it, but there's a lot of caveats to it. I walked away enjoying it mostly, and one of the things I'll say too, and I'll go into more details about the specifics of what I didn't like about it in the second half of the video, but in general, yeah, I liked it. Having said that, most of this first discussion is going to be really general. I know I said that before, but it's going to be very general, so bear with me. In general, this is a very well-made, very capable film. I think the prevailing theme of the film is heroism, and what that actually means to these characters. Characters whose motivations were wildly unexplored in the first movie. What is heroism to Rey? What is heroism to Finn and Poe, and how do they express that? How do they convey that? It's an internal struggle for them as much as it is one for us to find out. And in that sense, the film pays off great. However, the film tries to answer those questions sometimes to its detriment. Sometimes it can go a little bit far to the side, but we'll get to that later. There are a lot of set-piece moments in this film, which you'd expect from a big-budget Star Wars movie, and while most of them sell the idea of an epic conflict, if you look a little bit closer, it kind of falls apart. There's not really a whole lot that's carrying the movie other than this big background plot, and you're more interested in the little things that are going on in between it. Interspersed throughout that is what I call Disney moments. There's a lot of gags in this movie, and sometimes I really don't feel like it added much, because I feel like comedy should break tension, and sometimes, a lot of times, in this movie, it's just there to be funny, and it's kind of jarring, and I didn't really like that. Does this film answer questions? Yes, it does. Does it still leave a lot of questions unanswered? Yes. It does. I get the sense that the director, Rian Johnson, was held back from truly making this his own movie, and I kind of felt like Disney had a lot of say, and I mean, obviously they had a lot of say in what went on in the film, but more influence on the film than was probably necessary. Ultimately, I still have a lot of the same questions that I had when I went into the film, and that kind of bothers me. I feel like the sequel should at least attempt to answer the films that the first question presented me with, and it doesn't really do it in a lot of ways. In some ways it does, and again, I'm trying to be very general here because I don't want to spoil anything for you, but you're going to get a mixed bag with some of this stuff, so just keep that in mind. That being said, it's a very entertaining ride. The special effects are top-notch, and thankfully, a lot of it uses practical effects. You're going to see a lot of CG in the film, that's for sure, but where there is physical environments for the actors to interact with, you can tell that great care went into making these environments. They just ooze that human touch that I love to see in films so much. So look forward to that. There's a lot of really cool environments and sets that are used in this film. I saw the film in 3D. I can kind of recommend it, mostly for the space stuff and some of the fights that were in the movie, but obviously a lot of the more mundane expositionary scenes were not very interesting in 3D. A lot of the heavier dialogue scenes, you're not going to get anything out of that, but for a lot of the big set-piece stuff, yeah, it was pretty entertaining. The acting's top-notch. Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley are fantastic in this movie. I also really think Mark Hamill stole this film. In some ways, for the wrong ways, but we'll get into that in the spoiler territory. But I'll just say that if you're a Star Wars fan, you don't have anything to worry about. Everything is very well acted, and in some ways better than the first movie, so in that way it improves. Some of the other actors, though, were played up for comedic effect, and I really didn't like that. You're going to see what I mean when you see the movie. I feel like the performances are fine, but the writing behind them felt dumb. And I think this was more the hand of Disney than it was of Rian Johnson, but I can't be sure. Just know that you're going to have some gags in this movie, and some of the actors are basically used solely for that purpose. So my final word before we get into the spoilers section of this film: you should go see it. It's a very entertaining ride. It's family friendly. I don't think the kids are going to get some of the deeper themes that are in the film, but it's mostly surface level stuff. So you should definitely go see the film. Come back when you've seen it, because we're about to get into the spoiler stuff. I'm letting you know right now, we're going to be getting into spoiler territory. This is your final warning. Are you good? Did you switch off? Okay. Now this part of the video is going to be a little bit more freeform. I've got some notes over here that I'm going to kind of riff off of, because there are just too many things that I have feelings on that I'm not going to be able to quite edit in like a very perfect manner. So we're just going to throw it all out there bit by bit. We're going to break it down and we'll have this discussion. Okay, so welcome to the spoiler section. Hopefully you saw the movie. If you didn't, and you just like being spoiled about things, that's weird. But hey, whatever floats your boat, we're going to get into this. So, first thing, we still don't have a lot of answers. Character motivations are still nearly non-existent. What is there isn't enough. Rey, Finn, Poe, Kylo Ren, there are still not enough explanation given for why these characters are doing the things that they're doing in this movie. Kylo Ren, okay, so he's just evil for being evil's sake? That's just so vanilla. It's so boring. I'm not a fan of that. I really wish that they would have taken the time in this film to build backstory. They get to it in some parts, like when they go and Rey finally asks Luke, "Hey, what happened with Kylo Ren?" And you're like, "Fucking yes, we're finally gonna figure this shit out." It's the same thing you saw in the first movie. That same flashback, that's really all you get to see, except, yeah, you go inside the hut, and now we see Luke do something completely out of character, and Kylo Ren has a moment of, well, this is kind of why I'm the way I am. But that's not enough. Oh, Luke said, oh my god. I'm going to get all over my words here and jump around because there's just so many thoughts going through my head right now. So, in general, we still don't have a lot of answers, and that really bothered me. I mean, I was really expecting to go into this movie to get more, and I just didn't get more. Rey is still a Mary Sue. Rey is still this immaculately capable woman who suddenly has the abilities that she has, and she can't explain them. It's like suddenly becoming a savant, and it comes across as forced, contrived, and I really don't buy it. I don't buy any of the stuff that she's able to do. You can't just throw a character like that out there and say, well, she's just really in tune with the Force. And Luke's trying to help sell that with, I've just never seen this kind of power. I've saw it once before with Kylo Ren, and that's it. That doesn't do it for me, though. I need to have reasons in her life that led her to be this capable. We can't just say, well, she was a scavenger, so she picked up some skills doing scavenging shit, and then maybe she knows how to fight. What? What are you talking? What opportunities did we get to see her do that? Other than we can assume that if she was in that densely populated area, that some conflict would have arisen. Maybe when she was a girl, we can assume a lot of things. But the problem with that watching it as a film, if you're not giving us if you're not showing us how that character came to that point in her life, then it feels like a Mary Sue. This is why this argument comes up about her all the time. She is just immaculately capable, and the Force doesn't just explain that away. And if you're going to use that as this is how something can miraculously be solved thing, then that's just lazy writing. And I've said this about the first movie, and it's still present in this movie, and it still pisses me off. Yes, she does go through a little bit more of a character arc, kind of, with her training with Luke, but not really. And then that's mirrored in... They tried to mirror what happened in Empire Strikes Back, and that fucking pissed me off, but we'll get into that later. So Rey is still a Mary Sue. That sucks. Luke Skywalker stole this movie, but for all the wrong reasons. I hate what they did with Luke. I'm just going to come out and say that right now. I absolutely hate what they did with Luke Skywalker. Because, see, to me, Luke Skywalker is the paladin. Luke is the guy on the straight and narrow. He knows what the right thing to do is. He knows what evil is. He has seen it and been tempted by it. We see that in Empire Strikes Back. Luke has a very successful character arc in the original trilogy. Unlike Rey, where you just feel like she's just spurned on because reasons. Luke's relationship with his father and that connection to the larger galactic conflict is what made you believe in Luke Skywalker and his motivations. With Rey, there was none. In fact, this movie goes out of its way to tell you, hey, by the way, your parents, they're not anybody. They're fucking no one, so you're chasing no one. But was she even chasing that? We knew that there was some sort of want there for her, but was that her whole motivation for doing any of the stuff that she did? And then suddenly becoming force capable at this late age of her life? I mean, it's just fucking... ugh. But anyway, I'm tangenting, and you're going to expect that a lot. Just FYI, you should be playing something or doing something while I'm ranting, because I'm going to rant for a bit. Luke Skywalker's character would not do the things that Disney and, I guess, Rian Johnson made him do in this movie. When he's describing how he had a moment of weakness over Kylo Ren and was going to strike him down for the benefit of everybody else, Luke would never do that. You literally spent 3 films back in the 70s and 80s setting up why he would never do something like that. He wanted to bring the good out in people and would do whatever it took to bring the good out. He wouldn't just snuff it out. If that were the case, he would have just killed Darth Vader. He would have just killed his dad if that were the case. But he didn't. He went out of his way to try and save him. Luke would do that. Luke would not just snuff out his student, especially it being Carrie Fisher's or Princess Leia and Han Solo's kid. Despite whatever evil he saw, I don't buy for one fucking minute that he would do that. And that, to me, is the biggest sin of this movie. If there's ever a cinema sins, all I want to see is just the number one, and it's this moment. When Luke Skywalker has a moment of weakness. And then he becomes a hermit and sequesters himself off into the middle of fucking nowhere because this bothered him so deeply. He shut himself off from the Force entirely. Again, he would not do any of this stuff. And now I totally get what Mark Hamill was saying in some of those early interviews when this film was being made, of when he was quoted as saying, I would not have taken the character in the direction that they're taking him, but it is what it is. Mark, I completely agree with you. I would not have taken Luke in this direction at all. Luke should have been the paragon of balance in this story. If this is the Skywalker story and Anakin brought balance with the dark side, Luke should have brought it with the light side, right? There's the balance there, and with the light being prevailing, it's fine if you add some nuance to him and some more gray areas, because I think Luke could service that with his experience in the rebellion, having to do things that most people wouldn't do in order to get by. But at the same time, he wouldn't just outright kill somebody for no good reason. He damn sure wouldn't do it to Han Solo and Leia's kid. That was just... I hated that. That was just such a stupid moment in this film, and it will always leave a bad taste in my mouth. Every time I watch this in the future now, I'm going to be like, this is not Luke. He wouldn't do it. Luke would not do this. And I know they tried to set him up as, yeah, but it'll pay off in the end when he eventually comes around, which we all knew was going to happen. So why bother with that front part of the film with his arc if it didn't matter anyway? And we knew what was going to happen. It was so predictable. I hate when writers do this trope of, we have to make a character conflicted in order to raise them up later. It's predictable, and at this point it's cliche. And I fucking can't believe they did it with Luke Skywalker. Absolutely disgusted with that. Moving on. Hux for yucks. Too many gags. General Hux in this movie, his sole purpose is to be a fucking beat stick for the slapstick moments in this movie. There are so many gags in this movie, and I have to wonder how much, I said this earlier, but I have to wonder how much of this was due to Disney and how much of it was Rian Johnson. Because I feel like a lot of this was, they come across as Disney moments. That scene where Chewbacca is by the Millennium Falcon and he's about to eat one of those porgs that he just fried, and the little baby one's looking up and like, me, 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 and it's all crying and sad. What? These things can emote like cartoons? Like, that's so fucking stupid. I hated that so much. I hate these moments when you add this cartoonish effect to the films. The prequels did this with Jar Jar Binks, and that's one of the reasons, among many, that people hate the prequels, was the overuse of these comedic gags. Disney, you don't have to do this with every film. You don't have to be, well, we make humor, so that's why people love our films. Listen, humor works when it breaks tension. If you're only putting humor in there to be random and lol so funny, it doesn't work. The film starts off with this gag with Hux. Can you hear me? Can you hear? Well, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Fucking. I mean, I get that that's funny because Poe is like that, and that sets up the humor for his end, and he's buying time. I get that, but the way that they're responding was just dumb. I thought it was too easy and too cheap, and it didn't sell for me. There's a lot of gags in this movie that just don't work. Like, look at BB-8 run into stuff. Isn't that funny? Like, there's just, hated that shit. But there's a couple gags that work. There's a couple comedic lines that actually break tension, that actually serve their purpose, and can serve their purpose to great effect. But a lot of the times, for me, they fell flat. You may feel differently, but for me, a lot of those moments just fell flat. So Kylo Ren still doesn't make any sense to me. His motivations are non-existent. He's just evil for the sake of being evil? Okay. Yeah, so that's a problem I have. Kylo Ren, again, I discussed this a minute ago, but so his whole motivations are just that he had darkness within him because Skywalker blood, and he's just going with it? You have that whole event with Rey and that fight scene, and then he kills Snoke. We'll get to Snoke in a minute, but so he kills Snoke, and he tries to invite Rey to join him so that now he can rule, and it mirrors the Anakin Skywalker moment from the prequels, and it's so fucking, it's lazy. It's void of any real. It's vapid. Like, I don't care. You haven't sold me on why I should care. And you haven't convinced me that his reasons for being the way he is are legitimate. You're just saying he's just evil for the sake of being evil. You know, I could buy that with Emperor Palpatine, because Emperor Palpatine was literally just a caricature. He is just the ultimate evil, the one behind the scenes. He was cloaked, like, everything about him said cartoonish villain. And I was totally fine with that. But he sold it in Return of the Jedi, especially, and he also sell it through Darth Vader, and I think they tried to do that with Snoke, but it failed miserably, in my opinion. So Kylo Ren is still just angsty because he's angsty, and we just don't know why, and that's just the way he is, and he's not going to change. Rey tried to change him; it's not going to work, so I guess we're done. Okay. Leia mostly just hangs out during the film and can apparently use the Force now. When she drifted back to life from being blown out into space, the whole audience, there was a mix of gasps, and I heard a lot of audible, what? There was a lot, I did it, I was like, what? Okay, in the expanded universe content, yeah, she is taught by Luke how to tap into the Force. She is Force sensitive, she's a Skywalker, it makes total sense. But we never get any of that from anything else she's ever done, so it feels very, very sudden, and I'm okay with it mostly, because, again, I can buy that off-screen she was taught by Luke in some way, and I can totally buy that. But it's the way that it happened, it was very, like, what? That was weird. Alright. Yoda's back and is a real puppet, and he doesn't look like the shitty version that was in Episode 1. That was fucking cool. Although, the puppet looked a little bit weird. The way his mouth was moving was a little bit too exaggerated in a couple scenes, but mostly it works perfectly. his dialogue and what he actually does mostly fits. I think his initial thing, the initial thing that he does when he pops out, when he calls down the lightning and burns the tree anyway, that kind of worked, I guess. I mean, it was weird, but it kind of worked. Anyway, I liked him. I thought it was cool. It was good. It was good to see Yoda in the film, and especially with Frank Oz doing the voice. I thought that was great. All right, what else? The background plot was totally stupid when you really think about it. Why would they spend so long shelling that damn cruiser? All of that cutting-edge tech, and you can't detect the transports or anyone coming and going from the cruiser? So, most of this movie, you have this, Leia's ship and a couple little band of rebels that are outside the field of range of this super Star Destroyer, and it was kind of comedic to me, because I'm like, why? Okay, so the excuse that they gave you was, well, they're quicker than us, and then one of the Imperials says, well, they're too fast for us. They're gonna stay out ahead of us. We can't really catch up to them, but we can keep shooting them. Why wouldn't they just speed up a bit? There's absolutely no way for any of the smaller Star Destroyers to move in. There was a shit ton of those. Why does the big one have to move in? I thought that was so fucking stupid. Like, we're spending the entire movie shelling this thing, and apparently it has infinite shields, and apparently the firepower of this massive Star Destroyer isn't strong enough to break any of those shields. What? That was fucking stupid. That was just really dumb. That whole plot, that whole narrative going on in the background of this movie that was kind of like anchoring the film was really dumb. I didn't buy it at all. And I was like, alright, let's just get back to the Jedi stuff, because that's way more interesting. So that was fucking stupid. Canto Bight felt derivative as hell, tepid, and a tepid attempt to color the universe. Yes, it was. It was like, let's go to this place and show the 1%ers. I really did not like that at all. Especially and the reasons for them going there. Okay, we need to get a code cracker to crack the code on that ship to get them to stop being able to shoot us. Or was it to damage their hyperdrive? I forget which one it was. I think it was the gun. But regardless, they had to go get a master code cracker. And Maz Kanata, through an action-filled hologram, tells us, there's this one guy. He's the only one who can do it. You need to go there and get him. Okay. So we go there, and ultimately he's a MacGuffin, because anything else could have served this just fine. He wasn't very important. You could have grabbed another capable person, which they did. Benicio del Toro's character magically appears in the same cell that they're in, and tells them, oh, by the way, I can get us out of all this stuff. Bloop, bloop, bloop. And Canto Bight, and the weird horse things, like, they looked like the creatures from The Last Guardian without wings. It was really weird. And the CG for them, again, when I see super CG characters like that in films that aren't really paid much attention, you can tell that they kind of rushed them. That's what it looked like to me. They didn't look like they were very well done. And Rose was suddenly interested in them. We'll get to Rose in a minute, but that whole Canto Bight scene just felt derivative. Why are we... Okay, we have to travel from this dire situation all the way over here so that we can get a code cracker and hopefully bring him all the way back and then get on the fucking super Star Destroyer. It just felt completely improbable and a bit contrived, if I'm being honest. So that was dumb. Didn't like that at all. Snoke is ultimately a totally useless character. Yes, he is a completely useless character. He shows up and is like, rawr, I'm the big scary guy. Look what I can do with some Force stuff. And at first, when you see him hit Kylo Ren with that blast of lightning, I took him seriously for a second. I'm like, okay, he's got some chops. This dude's not to be fucked with. You sold me on that. But then they fucking get to the ship, the Mary Sue shows up, and Kylo Ren's sitting there kneeling, and he suddenly gleans all the information out of Rey, and is able to determine their overall scheme. Although we don't really get to see how that's done. You see a scene where she lays back and is screaming, and I guess he got it then, because that's the only proof that we have that he got it. But anyway, go back to that, and then he tells Kylo Ren, you need to kill this bitch. So Kylo Ren brings him up, and he's like, no, Kylo Ren's a complete slave to me. I can see everything inside of his head. I see the lightsaber igniting, blah, blah, blah. And while Rey's lightsaber was pulled away, and by the way, in the middle of this scene with the lightsaber that had to just, that Rey tried to pull, but then Snoke spun it around and whacked her in the head with it, like another stupid gag in a supposedly serious moment. Fucking. Anyway, that lightsaber ends up over next to Snoke, and he fucking kills her, or no. Anyway, that lightsaber ends up next to Snoke, and he's telling Kylo Ren to kill her, and Kylo Ren force turns that lightsaber to face sideways next to Snoke, and he ignites it, which cuts through Snoke, and Snoke's all surprised, and he pulls it forward and cuts Snoke in half. Okay, so I guess he isn't that smart, and he can't figure this shit out, so he's not serious at all, and we built him up for 2 whole movies for no fucking reason, just so we can focus more on Kylo Ren? Okay, fucking why didn't we just do that to begin with then? Fucking why didn't we just start with the Knights of Ren and have a cool evil round table of knights? Why didn't you go with something like that? Why did you have to build up this nobody just for the sake of making Kylo Ren look like he's overcoming something? It was just stupid. I thought that whole Snoke thing, when you go back and watch The Force Awakens, it's just going to feel stupid because you're like, oh boy, Snoke. Ooh, he's so scary. No. Nope, he's not scary at all. He's just a nobody. That was dumb. The Finn and Rose love connection is just stupid. Why? When? How? At no moment leading up to that kiss was there any sense of attraction. Nothing. There wasn't that scene where one of them looks at the other one and the other one kind of awkwardly realizes that, oh, this is weird. I'm feeling things for you. Nothing. There was no sell on that at all. It was just, mwah. Oh, passing out now. I tried to save you. What? It would have been way more better. It would have been so much better. And I agree with my friend Tim, who I saw this with. If Finn would have just suicided himself into that damn cannon, because then at least it was Finn sticking it to the First Order, a group that took his whole life from him, and that would have been fucking great. It's cool that we got to see that he was willing to do that. Again, going with what I said earlier with the themes of heroism. But it ultimately doesn't pay off because she saves him because I guess she wants to be with him? I guess? I don't know. That was weird. I don't buy it. I thought it was contrived. Why does there have to be a love interest for them? I don't know. It was really dumb. Did not like that at all. The scale of the conflict is hilariously small. Yes, it is. The scale of this conflict is very, very fucking tiny. When you think about it, it's just like they said 400 of these rebels, but really it comes down to you only see maybe like 100 or less. It feels really small. And the Empire, you have this massive super Star Destroyer, Snoke's command ship, and then a bunch of these other regular Star Destroyers, but none of them do anything, and ultimately it feels like it's only Hux and a handful of Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren versus all of these other rebels. It feels so tiny, even when they go down to the fucking salt planet, and I think it was Crate, I believe, which is in the comic books, if I'm not mistaken, or that was in the expanded universe. I have to look that up, but I'm pretty sure that was an established planet before. It was a mining planet, if I'm not mistaken. And so they go down there, and it's like all, yeah, I know you had the takeoff, the hyperspace attack that the one captain chick, the girl who played Grant's wife from Jurassic Park, fuck, I forget the actress's name, but when she hyperspaces through the damn ship and blows it in half, that was fucking cool. That was a cool set piece, very anime, but it was cool. When they're down there, they only have like 6 of these super AT-ATs left, and then like this. Luckily, they had the battering ram cannon, or I think they even called it a battering ram cannon, which was just like, what? You couldn't call it like the breach cannon or something like that, or I don't know, something more clever than the battering ram cannon. Like that was that was so dumb. But anyway, it's a handful of them versus a handful of them, and it ultimately feels like a very, very tiny conflict, and we're supposed to be scared of this First Order. It was really dumb. And now we have to answer the question, too. No one answered the Rebels' call at that end, so it's like, wow, they really don't have any allies anywhere, do they? Alright, well, that really makes that universe seem very grim and way darker and worth saving than it was in the original trilogy. Because in the original trilogy, you felt like you were trying to uplift and break from oppression these planets held under by the Empire. In this movie, though, you don't really get that sense. They're trying to tell you everything's corrupt and fucked up now. Everything's just as terrible as it was under the Empire. There is no republic, blah, blah, blah. It's like, wow, that's a really nihilistic and horrible, actually, just negative way of looking at the universe in Star Wars now, and I think that's really shitty. Mirroring scenes from Empire and Return of the Jedi was lame. Yes, it was. I knew they were going to do this. I wish I would have uploaded my predictions video, but there was a problem with the video. But I said in it that I suspect that they are going to do what they did with Episode 1, and they are going to mirror elements from Empire Strikes Back. I didn't know that they would also throw in stuff from Return of the Jedi, but they did. Like, okay, so, yeah, you have Rey can't finish her training, and she decides that she has to go do the right thing while the trainer that she's with feels otherwise. And then she's in the elevator, she gives herself up to Kylo Ren, just like Luke Skywalker did with Darth Vader, says, "There's good in you. You won't turn me over." And it was so, right out of Return of the Jedi, and I cringed at that pretty hard. I hate that that's what Disney's doing. Saying, you know, it feels like it's still the ghost of George Lucas saying, "Hey, remember that? Remember that? Hey, remember in Return of the Jedi?" Fucking Memberry running by. "Hey, remember when this happened?" Yeah, we remember. We've watched the movies 1,000 times. We remember. You don't have to do that scene again. That's fucking infuriating. Oh, God, that made me so mad. But at least it was, you know, acted well. I don't know. I didn't like it. I thought that was really dumb. So I've been ranting for a long time now. It's going on, what, 40-minute video? Holy shit. These are just a lot of the nitpicks that I had. A lot of the things I liked about the movie, though. The fight scenes were really cool. I hate what they did with Luke Skywalker's character. I don't think that he would have done any of that. I wish Rey would have gotten actual training other than just sit down and feel. Like, that was fucking lame. The movies do such a shit job of these what should be montage scenes. The 80s did montages, but at least it conveyed that they were getting good at something, even though they were cliched as all hell, and they miraculously make a character good. I'm not saying you should have done a montage. I'm saying you should have actually shown some character ability growth in this movie, because people are still going to call her a Mary Sue, despite anything that they've tried to do to correct that in this movie. Because I don't even feel like they did try to correct that. I think they were just rolling with it, like, yeah, she's just amazing. You know, go females. They're just awesome. And we're not going to counter that narrative. So, but anyway, despite my misgivings, I did enjoy it. I still think you should watch it. I'm still going to buy it. It's still a good Star Wars movie. There's just a lot of stuff about it I don't like. And I think we still have the original trilogy. And Rogue One. Rogue One was an amazing movie, and I really wish this was more like that. More of a grounded take on Star Wars, but it isn't. It's a lot more about the Force and the magic of that. Despite that, that Luke fight at the end with him projecting himself, that was really cool. I like that a lot. I don't know why that killed him, but okay. I feel like a lot of things come down to the reasons meme. It's just, well, because reasons. Oh, he does. Why did he do that? Well, reasons. Why did this happen? Well, reasons. You know, like, and if there are reasons to be found, they're very hollow, unfulfilling, and I felt like more time could have been spent building up the reasons for why these characters are doing what they're doing. Again, why did Luke die from that? We know he's going to come back as a Force ghost in the next movie. That's all this sets up for. You know, him being able to see the twin sons of Tatooine as he was dying. Okay, that's nostalgic, but he wanted to leave Tatooine. He didn't want to stay there. He was looking at that setting his entire life, and that planet brought him only misery. So I don't know why he would think fondly of that. I feel like that was more for the audience than it was for Luke. But, you know, meh. I wonder how much of this movie was because of Disney and how much of it was Rian Johnson. I really do. I feel like Disney's fingerprints are all over this thing and not as much of Rian Johnson's. And I know that they are giving him his own trilogy to do, and I just hope that they let him run wild with it. I really hope that he is able to bring something better to Star Wars than what he did here. It's a fine movie. It's better than The Force Awakens, I'll say that. It's definitely worth the watch, but as a Star Wars fan, I'm very critical. I think that's just my nature in general. I'm just very critical of things. If you're going to convince me that someone is capable of doing something, you need to show me. You need to show me that that character is capable, or why that character is capable of doing what they're able to do. If you can't sell me on that, and I have to go read a comic book and 2 novels to figure out the motivations for characters, I'm not going to be interested. Oh shit, I totally forgot. Captain Phasma turned out to be another totally useless character. Didn't need to be in this movie at all. Anyone could have done anything that she did in this movie. Again, it was so fucking stupid. Oh, but yeah, but Finn didn't like her. Remember that? Remember how Finn didn't like her? Ugh, I was just eye-rolling. I was really dumb. Okay, I've been ranting way too long. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you for listening to this. If you have been listening to this, make sure to drop a like. Leave a comment. Let me know. Did you watch the movie? What did you think of it? Hopefully you saw it and you didn't just sit through all the spoiler stuff without seeing the movie. But if you did, let me know what you thought. Very interested to hear what you say. Alright, guys. We'll talk to you later. Peace.